Hey everybody, it's Steve. How's it going? So yeah, second day of trying out my new selfie stick. I have an old selfie stick, but it's not fancy. The new one's not really fancy, but it's got some electronic stuff on it, which I've got to figure out. Anybody who, by the way, happens to be an expert in electronic selfie sticks, message me and tell me all the neat things that I could possibly do with it. Because, besides hit myself in the face over and over and over again. Because that's the first thing that came to my mind when I thought to myself, how does this work? I thought I might just hit myself in the face with it. I'd be an expert at that. I don't think that's what it's designed for, but I mean, you could almost use anything that way. So what I'm going to do is show you around our new place where we've landed in Baton Rouge. And so here we go on the tour. So now this is the inside of the place. And of course, I've taken the time to fuck it all up, make it look lived in. So front door, let's do a wall walk. So now that's a cat. We've had that one for a while. That's not new to us. Frank. Hey, Frank. How's it going, buddy? Hey, man. All right. I'll leave you alone. So we've given her her own little flair. That chair came with the thing because, we're only temporary here. You see all those Prime boxes there? I have a pillow on top so the cats won't mess with it. But I ordered a bunch of crap. The bottom one is a gigantic crawfish cooking pot, which I do need to get one, but that one's bigger than I wanted. And but it's really awesome quality. I scored on that. And then the other stuff is a bunch of stuff I ordered, but I'm a guy, and so I ordered way more stuff than I needed, so I'm sending some of it back. That's why it's in those boxes. My tool bag. Yes. And these are boxes that normally most people throw away, but we have them for cats. And but I'm just give you the roundy around here. Very nice. It's a very dinky little apartment, and I like how I didn't notice this until mainly until right now, but the light bulbs are different colors. Very eclectic. But we got our bear swag. Oh. Ginger Billy. Hey buddy, how you doing? Yeah, I'm the worst kind of dad. I wake him up for no reason. But anyway, it's a 1-bedroom, pretty small apartment, but it's cute, if I would declutter it. It's not dirty other than, 9 times out of 10, if you ever see any kind of debris on the floor, like there's a couple of pieces of trash, I have thrown them at the cats to play with them. It's not just like randomly, like a kid, how they don't bother cleaning up after themselves. It's me and the cats fucking around. And random food. That happens when that yellow ball or something like that hits their little treats, plates. Yeah, exactly. So, by the way, in the closet here, this is stuff that was in this apartment. It's almost like they staged it for a show apartment, but it was just for us and so I took it all and unmade the bed and folded it all up and put it in there and all the pillows for the couch and all that kind of stuff because I don't want to mess up their stuff. I already had my own. So anyway, and our little kitchen, which looked really, really sharp until I put all of our junk everywhere. By the way, mushroom coffee, I love it. You guys should try it. I just do 1 scoop in like if my coffee is going to be, say 4 scoops for a pot. And they gave us a Keurig, by the way, but I like drip coffee, so I bought that too. And that's for Karen because she has to put up with me. That's legit. That is legit. Seriously, guys. See, and that's all my spices and stuff. There was a bunch of things I had to, and I bought that in New Orleans. I have one thing of New Orleans swag besides that and that. But it's a cute little place. Other than the fact that the fridge runs 24/7, It's okay because we're not paying for electricity or anything, which is still kind of bogus that we would have it running all the time. But I mean, it's theirs. I mean, it's a very nice little apartment. And that's mine, my little weight bench. I use it for using my, my handhelds, dumbbells and stuff like that, and also for sit-ups, which I think is a good idea. And my van and Karen's car. And that lump you see, I don't know, can you see that lump? That is a kid. Hi, Gracie Grace. How you doing, kid? I know that was rude. Sorry about that, sweetie. Her dad's a jackass. See, and another chair, which it's surprisingly, though, the cats do sit on these and lay on these and sleep on these like crazy. And this is the laundry room. I'll pan back so you can kind of see better. But that's our laundry room closet / closet. Nice, huh? So that is it. So, I mean, we still have our house in Iowa. And this little apartment's, of course, part of her wage. And then nice. All right, so now you can see, that'll help you put it together in your head, how we're living and stuff like that. So Karen's here fixing all their problems while I basically do nothing, which I know seems incredibly lazy. And for people that know me, they get it. That's because that's what I am, basically. There was a time when I wasn't. I don't remember it, but there was a time. I'm just going to say there was a time. Not necessarily because there was a time, but I don't know that there wasn't. My memory's not as good as it used to be. So I'm not going to assume. Hey, Frank, how you doing? What's up, buddy? Anyway, so what should we talk about? Oh, by the way, so on a light, so I'm going to do it. This is my personal stuff right here. I'm going to do my advertising on another video or later today. But my business. So both of the businesses that I have going, which aren't really officially going yet, I'm going to change the world with. I know that sounds grandiose. But the main one, which is the cleaning business, you tell me what you think. My goal was, when I started it, when I was designing it and stuff, was I didn't like how there's a ton of people now that are hoarding money and a ton of people that are aspiring to hoard money, and some of them are acquaintances of mine and relatives and things that were, that hate on homeless people, which the numbers are increasing. I mean, LA, Portland, it's everywhere that has decent enough weather, to survive in outdoors. But there's a reason for that homeless thing. It's not because people are lazy. I mean, there's always been bums, some of that are people that they mentally can't function in in a settled kind of a way. There's always been the saddle bum types and stuff too, but there are tons and tons of people that are being priced out of communities. They can't afford the rent anymore. They can't afford the mortgage anymore. If they don't have a certain kind of job or a certain kind of education, and then also play the game the way they're supposed to, God forbid they get some kind of legal shit going on, get busted for weed or who knows what when the time was that they could do that. They get ousted out of society, and then they become homeless. That's kind of an extreme, but it's becoming more and more common. And there's always been what people call bad neighborhoods, but they're neighborhoods where people can live and barely afford to live, but they can live there. They don't do any kind of upkeep on their house because they can't afford to, and that's if they own it. And if they don't own it, the owners are frequently more and more like slumlords, and they don't do any upkeep. So pretty soon you got an entire neighborhood that is a low end, because none of the houses get rented for much or will sell for much, and so we're in this slow decline, where the homeless problem is becoming bigger and bigger and bigger, and I just don't see anybody giving a shit. There's a lot of complaining, there's a lot of moving away, and people are leaving places like that because it's just too distressing, I guess, to walk, in your or to drive around or whatever, and seeing all the homelessness and all the drug use and things like that, because those things go hand in hand. When your life sucks that bad, you got to escape somehow, and that's the only reason bars have ever been successful. But now bars aren't enough. People got to use other stuff, and of course the dope dealers are happy as a clam to send their product into those areas. It's supply and demand. There's a demand, and so they're going to be like, heck yeah. First, and before there's ever a demand, they go there and say, hey, would you like to escape this bullshit, in your mind? And after a while, there's a demand. But anyway, my thing is I want to change the world. So my silly little cleaning business is going to be oriented toward a job that anybody can do, with some training, with some simple training, a training that I can teach anybody to do, right? And then they can teach anybody to do. All you have to have is some willpower, a little bit, not tons, but pride. And even if you don't take a lot of personal pride in a lot of stuff of your own, if you can take personal pride at work, and there will be plenty of supervision, for plenty of feedback, and the people that are able to do that and make that happen, they'll keep their work and they'll get paid. They'll be incentivized with money, and the people that won't do that are, they're going to go do something else. But the way I'm going to change the world is I'm going to pay more than what people normally make in a job like that. They're going to get health insurance, and they're going to get some type of long-term savings and or investment help. There's a lot of programs out now where that you can use tiny little bits of money and put into an investment account, and some smart person gathers that together, almost like group health insurance, and is able to make real investments. It's almost like a 401k, except it can use a lot less money and it's a lot less formal. That way, a person with less education and a little less ambition sometimes can save money, and not just save money. If they take the time to listen, They can save money, but they can also make money. I had a friend that was extremely wealthy one time tell me that you'll never, in his words, you'll never get rich by saving money. You'll only get rich by making money. Okay. And so if I can teach people that with that program for employees, it'll be kind of like 401k, but with a little more education. And, hopefully spark some interest in some people to go beyond where their parents went and go beyond where their grandparents went, and to, help their kids go to school. Now, I think in the next 10 or 15 years, there won't be any more charging for college. There will always be colleges that cost money. But when the next version of AI comes out, I have a theory about that, that AI is that the real AI, that super AI, I guess they're calling it, is going to solve a lot of things, and it's going to solve a lot of greedy bastard things, like the Elon Musks and stuff like that are hoarding money. At some point, AI is going to see that as a problem, because what computers are logic engines, and what they do is they solve problems. The only difference between a regular computer that's being asked to solve a problem, they're being asked for their opinion, and a computer that is more powerful than the maker of the computer is, they're not going to ask anymore, and they're not going to be asked, and they're not going to take no for an answer. They at some point will. Every financial everything is digitized. In fact, everything is digitized these days. When that new AI takes over, and it will take over, it will be able to do everything. It'll see all our human bullshit between the scarcity drives everything, right? And there is no such thing as scarcity. That's a human created problem. That's a low tech problem. There is no scarcity on Earth for space. Not at all. Not yet. There's so much space on the Earth right now, it's as if there's no people on it. Scientists have been saying for a long, long time that, it can only handle so many billion people, and that we're way over that now. They think we're double what it can handle. And it's because people that own tech, the big countries basically that own the major tech, they're run by oligarchs, and not just Russia. Everybody thinks Russia oligarch. There's the whole world right now is run by the super wealthy, and it has been for several thousand years, at least 2,000, right? And China and places like that were, and the Middle East, that were well established before anything that Great Britain did or the U.S. did. Began by really excellent business people getting a toehold into everything and getting everything going. But at some point, we turned into the Rockefellers and stuff like that, who then engineered, just like any other market thing, they engineered the Great Depression and some things like that. And I don't know if it went too far or what, I don't know. But I've done a lot of reading about that, not just conspiracy theory things, but from great economists have talked about that tons of really, really rich people have gotten really rich, not just on the backs of regular people, but they have been playing kind of 3D chess with each other, and with the goal of destroying each other, only to then come by and pick the bodies for the useful bits, And the Great Depression was an example. There was a depression before the Great Depression. That was 1917, I think. And one of the things that happened during that depressed era was the first pandemic. And, in the First World War and things, like that one General Smedley said that war is a racket. It's all tied together for really, really rich people just to make more money. And when the Great Depression hit, banks, zillions of banks went under, and then the really, really rich, like the Rockefellers and people like that, were able to come by and buy those banks for pennies on the dollar. And so they went from being wealthy to being millionaires. And the gas shortage in the 70s was 100% fake. It was engineered to scare people and to drive the price of fuel up, and OPEC was part of that. Then the crash in '08. I don't know if that was 100% engineered. I think that was more of just idiocy. But there's a lot of people made a lot more money from '08 to now. The world has made more billionaires than it ever had before in a short period of time. So it kind of makes sense that some of it is just them taking advantage of the situation, which is what smart business people do. But some of that is engineered, and that's what evil, unethical business people do, where that they make a lot of people suffer, and a lot of people even die over stuff like that, because Bush's war in the Middle East, there's some things that happened out of it that were good. Saddam Hussein was an evil fuck. He ran that whole region with an iron fist. So there wasn't a whole lot of terrorism and things like that. But when we went in there and took Saddam out and stuff like that, we destabilized the entire region, not just that country, but the entire region. We sent tons and tons of religious crazy pots into this kill whitey mode, and here we still are in the exact same position. We've gone back and forth watching these different atrocities happen, and every single time they're chanting something about America, because we're bombing their fucking houses and stuff. We're sending, $100,000 missiles into $10 huts, and it's just, somebody's getting a benefit out of that. But anyway, back to the subject that I was talking about. My goal with the cleaning business, first off, the cleaning business is designed to be able to expand exponentially and endlessly. Okay, it'll be 3-person teams that go to each and every cleaning job. Okay, it's designed for 3 people always. It's a structure, it's a set of duties, all that kind of stuff. No matter how small the cleaning job is, 3 people can still do it. And when the business is running right, a little tiny job, they're not going to make a ton of money. But if it's scheduled properly and if it's marketed properly, they'll go from job to job to job to job to job. And eventually, like in a town the size of, say, Clinton, Iowa, or the Quad Cities, or Eugene, Oregon, or Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and New Orleans, Louisiana, all that kind of stuff. These different 3 teams will have to, the idea is as soon as we get enough calls, we need another team. And so the teams will be set up like the lead person was the person with the most experience. The number 2, their direct person down for them is the most experienced besides being the lead person. And then the brand new hire or the least trained person is the number 1. And so the idea, or however that works, the number 2 being the least trained, and the number 1 being the most trained without being the lead. And the whole point of that is that nobody ever stays on the same team, not for long, because as you're getting trained up, the new team that needs to go in because we're getting more calls, new team that needs to be developed, the lead person from that team goes and starts the next team because they have the most training and expertise. And so then they go and we'll have a company trainer that'll get them up to speed enough to be able to be on a team. And then between that person and the lead person starting that next team, they'll be able to get a group up to speed enough to go into houses and wherever else they're cleaning. My goal is to do mostly residential. There's a ton of people already, cleaning companies that do offices and all that kind of stuff. I don't need to compete with them. And most of those cleaning companies operate in the middle of the night and stuff like that. I don't want to do that. There's a ton of people that would love to clean if it weren't for the fact that those companies operate in the middle of the night, and we don't need to do that. So we're going to capitalize on the fact that most of the companies that are going into the market that I'm going into are tiny, fly by night, Joe Schmo, like some lady that wants to clean people's houses. And I'm not going to compete with them. There's no way I can compete with that. What I can compete with is, and my niche will be, there's a big bubble of people that are aging up, into the place where that they don't really necessarily want to 100% take care of themselves, kind of like assisted livings do and stuff, except that assisted living places are extremely expensive. My wife and I used to manage those, and about the least expensive apartment we ever rented was $1,700 a month, and it easily gets to, $2,000 a month and stuff like that. And God forbid somebody has a memory care issue, like, a little slipping, or they've got some minor dementia that's developing or whatever. Then it's like $7,000 a month to $9,000 a month. And I've seen more. There's nobody that can afford that. We had millionaires in our community that we managed, and they would invariably choose the most expensive kinds of places. We even had small, they were like duplexes that were near our building, right? Because they wanted to have this illusion of having a house still. And those places were like $11,000 a month. And it's, invariably everybody outlives their money. We had dining facilities and everything somebody could need. We didn't hire and employ medical people, but we had relationships with nursing companies and things like that, where that they would come in and take care of folks or whatever as much as they needed. So the idea is there's a lot of people that don't want to, and not one single person ever moved there that wanted to move there. And this place was ultra luxury. There's a whole lot of places that aren't anywhere near that. We didn't take Title 19 and stuff like that, which is the most common form of payment for people that are that go to like a retirement community of whatever level it is, because Title 19 is a Medicaid thing. It's Title 19 of Medicaid, and I've only ever seen a few, and that's where where we ran a community, because we didn't take Title 19, period. And tons of people that were really well-to-do and had all kinds of money stacked up outlived their money, and then they had to be moved on to stuff to places that did take Title 19. And everybody's been to those places. Some of them aren't that nice. And at minimum, from the highest end to the lowest end, they are warehouses for people waiting to die. And that's what they say. That's what that term I learned from them, that definition. One lady killed herself after she was placed there. She killed herself on Christmas Eve, with a bunch of pills that some crazy doctor gave her, because her family didn't want to take care of her anymore. They didn't want her to live with them and stuff like this. And, she's the extreme example, but everybody there is kind of heartbroken that nobody in their family wants them around anymore. Back in the old days, when somebody got that old, they would start living with their kids, and until they passed, you know. Well, that's the cleaning thing is a way for people to age in place. So they get to stay home. But for somebody to stay home, they need help, a lot of help. They need a nursing company. And, like I say, our community that we managed, we rented out one of the apartments to a company that was nurses, and they basically were like little busy bees. Some people needed extra help. We didn't keep anybody that had memory care problems because we couldn't lock people in. Those places are highly secure, so people don't run around in traffic because that's a thing. One guy that needed to be moved on to something but hadn't been moved on yet disappeared, and we were in the state of Washington, and he called his caregiver from San Francisco, and he didn't know where he was, and that was a big debacle. So memory care is a thing where that, and during COVID, my mom had dementia, and me and my sister had to we couldn't get her put in a place, and anywhere. We found one place in Boston. They were gonna take her, and then I can't remember what happened, but anyway, something at the last minute made it to where that they couldn't even do it. And that was like $9,000 a month. That's what that would have been. And so we were getting, mom had 5 kids, and we were calling all around and getting everybody together to figure out how to pitch in. And mom made like $2,500 a month in retirement. But between that and what her house was worth and all of us pitching in, it was going to be a real challenge to get to $9,000 a month, or whatever it was, 7,000, 9,000. But it was a big deal. And when you think about somebody getting into something like that, you think about the first month, maybe the second month. But what happens when you're a year into it? Mom wouldn't have been in hospice at the time. Hospice is when they've determined somebody has under 6 months to live. And mom was physically fine. She was at the beginning stages of vascular dementia, and eventually vascular dementia kills you. But it took quite a while for that to happen, and for a lot of people, that's completely most people don't make $2,500 a month in retirement. My mom had my dad's pension. The part of the pension she was allowed to have from a union, a really high-paying union, and she had her Social Security, and she had another pension from my dad from many years before, and she had a pension from herself from when she retired from teaching, and all that together was $2,500 a month. That's a pretty awesome retirement, really, these days at the moment, and that was in the early 2000s, and like in 2010 to 2015 kind of a thing. And some people, though, just don't want to go to the home where there's we used to sell that, that's when you go to the home, there's people there your own age, and you get to make friends and all this kind of stuff. But that only goes so far. Everybody there is grumpy. Everybody there is in pain. Everybody there just lost a spouse almost always. There's a lot of unhappiness in a place like that, especially when you get to where each individual person's story sucks. Each individual person's story sucks, no matter how awesome the community is, how opulent it is, how in our place we had a cordon bleu trained chef, who was military, then as a chef, cordon bleu trained, and then obsessed with it, made the most wonderful meals that you would normally have to pay a ton of money for. The dining room area was just so gorgeous. The communities, all of that company's communities are made to look like a cruise ship inside, right? If anybody's cruised, you know what I'm talking about with the dining areas with the upstairs. I can't remember what they call that, where you could see it goes up several floors, and you can see out the top windows to the sun. It was just gorgeous. As gorgeous as that community was, everybody there was unhappy. I mean, because they know it's a warehouse for people waiting to die. And that sounds terrible to say that, but they on a reg. I mean, as a manager, it sounds funny, but to be connected with everybody, one of the ways to be connected with everybody every day is that for 3 meals a day, I would pour everybody's coffee. You know, I would go from table to table to table with coffee pots, and I would pour everybody's coffee and to say hi to everybody. You know, and of course there was lots of nice people, and there was times when they were in good moods and stuff like that. And we did everything we could to, and our staff did too, big staff, to make people feel happy and, you know, accommodated and important and all those things. And the overall feeling, though, like I say, was sadness. And so that imagine all, you know, like 100 and something people in one room, all sad at the same time. That is not a happy place. That is not a happy life, especially not an end to a life that maybe was really great. That lady killed herself. She had like, I don't know, 8 or 9 kids. She was a Mormon lady and came from a big Mormon family. And it was about 2 weeks after she got there, she killed herself. And the kids, you know, her grown kids got there Christmas morning, and we didn't know. And got there Christmas morning to maybe to get her and to take her to an event or whatever. And they found her in her apartment on the bed dead, and a big bowl. She had a paper bowl next to her that was full of, I don't know, Vicodin or something like that. And you could see where she grabbed a handful of them and just pushed them down her mouth. Like in the bowl, there was like a hole where there was nothing. And then, you know, almost like it was a bowl. I don't know how she had that many. That whoever the doctor was an absolute idiot. But I guess she went painlessly. She went to sleep, and that's it. But when you get sent off to a place like that, you're not getting sent off because somebody loves you to death. You know, it's because they don't want to be bothered. You know, and I understand the kid's point of view. My mom was really resistant to any kind of, you know, having to live in anything other than her own house. Finally, we got things changed to where my sister was in charge of her officially, and but my sister lived in an apartment, so my mom couldn't live there. But what we did was we rented an apartment right below my sister, and we converted that apartment into a memory care place where my mom was locked in. There was zillions of cameras all over the place with sound and everything like that. She had everything she needed. We had a nurse stop in there like 3 times a day, and my sister went down there every single day, many times, and my niece went down there every day, many times. So my mom always had everything she needed, TV, you know, all the radio, whatever she wanted. And it was during COVID, so we weren't able to get her an alternative thing. And my sister is so crazy. She let my mom keep her phone because she didn't want her to not have stuff she's always had or whatever. And so what'd she do? She called 911 on a regular basis. And to the point where the 911's like, they would hang up with my mom and then call my sister and say, hey, is there really actually an emergency? My mom would just call them and say, save me. Literally, I'm not joking you. Save me, like she was, you know, in a house fire or something. But that's what what made me think of this business. 2 things. One, folks want to be able to age in place. They want to get old in their own home and not a nursing home, not an assisted living, because it's all the same. Whether it's a shitty nursing home where everybody's, you know, mentally ill and basically like one flew over the cuckoo's nest, or whether it's just a gorgeous facility that anybody would be happy to live in normally, until you're forced to live there because your kids don't want you to live at their house, right? Then it's a place of sadness. So we can get to somebody's house as often as they want us to clean and there's three people, and so there's not just one person having to placate, a person, and the cleaners are all supervised by each other, right? You can get one person to do bad things, like, by themselves, steal, or who knows what, God, abuse people or something. You could even get two people to kind of look the other way on each other. Three people ain't never going to happen. There's always going to be somebody in the group that's not okay with something that's unethical. And so that's one of the reasons why it's always a 3-person group. It's never somebody by themselves. That way, for the worker, they're safe too, because there's so many nutballs out there and stuff like that, that there's 3 people of varying levels of experience. And like I mentioned before, it's a way for people to kind of get educated, then educated out of that group and into a new group, and then eventually out of that group and into a new group. And that's how it's going to spread exponentially. The big trick on that is good quality service, a very good and doable price. I don't know if anybody's ever called to see what cleaning costs, like somebody to clean your home, but I have an MBA. I have a master's degree in business administration, and I've read tons of books and stuff on the subject of small business and starting a business and da 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 da. And I've had 3 before. I know what not to do now. Don't have one during COVID. And one of the problems is that it's not a sustainable thing. It's too much money. Normally. But one of the ways I'm going to change the world is I'm going to accept a smaller profit margin, okay, period, which is what businesses need to do. And because right now, all businesses that I know of are trying to price themselves out of work. Just like towns are pricing people out of housing, Right now, there's an incredibly horrible shortage of housing in America. And part of that is because there's this big push to market every piece of housing toward college grads, and not everybody's a college grad. And the people that are getting priced out are young people, old people, whatever, and they're living in RVs or tents, and shitty RVs, not happy RVs. And so one of the things with the pricing is that I'm going to make it more affordable, make it something that most anybody can do and even justify. And at the same time, I'm going to make sure that my workers are all paid more than cleaners are normally paid. And in any business, the economy of any business says that something's got to give there. Some kinds of stores say, okay, the way we're going to set it up is, the way we're going to charge is, we have to have a 40% profit. And so it costs this much to buy this product, and then we're gonna bump it 40% and sell it for that. And the 40% goes into paying for all the business stuff, the brick and mortar, whatever you have for your business, and the product and all that stuff, and the advertising, things like that. Well, I don't know what everybody else's profit margin is, but I've called and done what's called a comp shop all over the country with anybody that I will perceive as being at my level, my goals level, not my starting level, my goals level, for pricing. And they're unbelievably expensive. I was shocked, actually. I knew it was expensive, but I had no idea how bad it was. And, also I know why normal people can't afford that. I've got friends that have really great jobs and stuff like that, that have cleaners come in on a regular basis, and they can afford it. But I'm going to make sure that everybody can afford it for the most part. And I'm also going to make sure that it's a good paying job. It's a living wage. Like I say, though, that means the profit margin for me is going to be much smaller. So I've got to figure out a way to make that money up. And the way to make that money up is to design the structure of this business to be as expandable as I could possibly. So it's volume. It's like I say it's a little bit like Walmart, except I don't intend to sell Walmart shit. The quality is going to be excellent, and that's one of the benefits of paying somebody a living wage. If you set up SOPs, standard operating procedures, and then if you train your people well, and then supervise them well, and then incentivize them by paying them a good quality wage, and even literally giving them, opportunities to make more, by doing extra good work or extra fast work or something. And then, like the normal stuff like holiday party and insurance for their kids, that kind of crap. If you do that kind of stuff enough, you are going to keep people. And the longer you keep people, and as long as you're supervising and teaching them correctly, you're going to get the better quality, period. And then it's a question of, as long as you keep shit going like that, and that starts at the top, nobody can forget what they were doing, forget how I've told so many businesses that if I ran a business the way they do, that I would go broke, because, whatever the business is, it didn't start that way. And then at some point they forgot what they were doing, and they became so big that nobody could see it, and eventually that kind of business fails. No matter what brand name you think you're talking about, how big it could be, Levi or, JCPenney, anything like that could fail in the right circumstances. And, it's kind of like the perfect storm kind of a thing. So I'm going to change the world, not by myself. I'm certainly not going to do that. It's going to be a drop in the bucket, but it's going to be a drop in the right bucket is what I'm hoping to do. So that's kind of the story, which I think I haven't told that to anybody yet. So I think, this has gone on 47 minutes. So thanks for hanging in there so far. And this has been Steve Underwood. My current business, which I am building to fund that other business, is called Professional Maintenance Consulting. And I specialize in rental buildings, whether it's apartment complexes, buildings, big buildings with apartments in it, or single family homes. I've worked for companies, property management companies, doing maintenance for all that kind of stuff. And I've always been excellent at it, with an exception of one company that I worked for, which is kind of sad because I really loved that company and I really loved that property. But I was at the beginnings of finding out that I have MS. And at the time I didn't know. And at the time my health was doing some really weird stuff. And I was not performing at my peak. I didn't do anything crazy. I wasn't me as well as I could be. And I was brand new to the company, and it didn't help that the manager there had ulterior motives, about wanting to it had nothing to do with me. They didn't want the new maintenance manager. They wanted to hire a person that was already on their property who was a knucklehead because they just liked him. So they had a plan from the get-go, which I found out later from the last maintenance supervisor, but who went to another building in the same company to get away from that manager. She had a little bit of a rep, and but now I'm using, during COVID I went back to school and got an MBA. My bachelor's focused on marketing, and my MBA focused on project management. And, everything's a project, especially in management and stuff. So it all lines up perfectly for what I do now. So anyway, pass the word along, if you would, to anybody with a property management company that I'm ready to fix their issue or improve their issue drastically. So that's it. I'm under 50 minutes. Boom. Okay, you guys have a great day, and see you later from Baton Rouge.